Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Matthew Zugsberger. I've been a commercial diver for 17 years. I've worked all over the world, from the west coast of Africa to the Gulf of Mexico. I was there during Katrina. Recently, I started a project out here at Drakes Estero, the oyster farm that was being removed. Early in October, I reported to my supervisors the discharge of CCA, chromated copper, arsenic, and also creosote, grade 3, into the environment, the seal habitat. I received grade 3 chemical burns in which I was treated. At that point, I also complained and requested a review of the payroll schedule under Davis-Bacon. Found out we were misclassified. I went to OSHA. I did the appropriate things. I went from my supervisor to the project manager to National Park Service, and all the way down the line. I eventually ended up filing a complaint with the Department of the Interior Office of the Inspector General, who immediately turned the investigation to be done internally by NPS. I found this to be a conflict of interest. As of yesterday, they actually missed their deadline for the second time of responding to OIG. On January 3rd, I wrote a letter to the Secretary, Sally Jewell, of the U.S. Department of the Interior. It is still yet to be responded to. Within several days of my complaint to Department of the Office of the Inspector General, I was terminated from my project. I filed a complaint with OSHA Whistleblower Program. They investigated. The contractor received 13 serious citations on site, 4 of which should have been willful. When I confronted OSHA about this, they went back and they did issue the other 2 citations for commercial diving, but later after the fact, they redacted those 2 commercial diving citations and failed to inform me. When I demanded an explanation, they refused to give it to me. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and do we have a last speaker?
Would you introduce yourself?
My name is Matthew Zugsberger.
And you spoke here today, Matthew, about your struggle for being a whistleblower, your protection for whistleblowers. What happened with you in trying to get the truth out about what was going on in your job with the park department?
Well, my situation is probably not unique. It's probably very systemic. I did my complaints to the OSHA Division 9 in Oakland, to Amber Rose. I explained my concerns of the job site. I explained the things I believe that were illegal. I even quoted the actual CFR to the OSHA investigator. The OSHA investigator at that point essentially argued with me and said that my interpretation of that CFR was completely inadequate due to the fact that I was not on air. I said to them, well, according to Steve Butler in Washington, D.C., OSHA's top diving personnel management officer, that I should have never been forced to free dive in general. It's against the United States Army Corps of Engineers dive manual. It's against actually the own National Park Service's own dive manual. They refused to issue a citation under 29 CFR 1910 subpart T 401 through 440. I quickly pointed out that there was actually proof that I did dive on air. They went back out to the site. They spoke to Jack Williams of the National Park Service. They spoke to Jason Longshore, the contract officer of the National Park Service. They spoke to the prime contractor, T.L. Peterson, the subcontractor, Galinvl Construction. And every person on that list denied emphatically that at any time that I was ever on air. Well, a few days later, a voicemail pops up, a recorded voicemail left by Lisa Galindo of Galinvl Construction, clearly stating that on the first day Matthew Zugsberger did dive on air and there was not a qualified dive team on site. They, at that point, Amber Rose, felt compelled to go down and reissue the citation for diving. Once that citation was issued, she redacted it. I made a formal protest, and I'm still yet to hear about, I spoke with Mark Marchone.
So OSHA, I mean, this is about protecting you as a whistleblower, but also your life could have been in danger as a result of what was happening.
It was deemed as an imminent, serious suffocation hazard, and I do have those citations with me. There was a total of 13 issued. 2 are redacted, and I'm fighting to have those 2 reinstated.
And OSHA is supposed to protect whistleblowers. You say that you've been retaliated against, terminated because you're a whistleblower.
Yes.
Why are you having to go through this big process to protect your rights as a whistleblower, to protect your health and safety and other divers?
You know, I think this problem stems from the management of OSHA and also the management of the OSHA Whistleblower Program here, in maybe nationwide, but I can only say for Region 9 I've dealt with. But they have bent over backwards to assist the contractor. Out of all the citations that were issued, $0 in fines on any of them. 13 serious citations, $0 in fines. I protested against that. She said under Action 51 that they weren't subject to these fines. And I said, okay, well, 4 of these were willful. She denied that. That's when they turned around and they withdrew those citations. I'm appealing that right now. When I also filed with the OSHA Whistleblower Program, Jolene Dunn, my investigator, I gave her all the evidence, clearly showing how that the retaliatory steps were taken against me. She said, I disagree with you. You were not fired because you blew the whistle. Your employer didn't know that you called OSHA on him, even though I was the only person who could have, and that I was terminated because I failed to show up for work, even though the employer clearly would not respond to my stipulated what time do I start work. There was an OSHA investigator, Lisa Treecarton, who overheard the conversation of the time I was supposed to return to work, and since then she's refused to acknowledge that.
Would you say that OSHA and the Whistleblower Protection Program have been captured by these companies they're supposed to regulate?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just surprised they don't receive a secondary paycheck from these employers.
What does it say about protection of workers in this country who try to do their jobs, try to be conscientious, and then get punished, really, for doing their job and standing up for their health and safety rights?
Just from my understanding, under the 11C program, a whistleblower has protections against retaliation. He has protections against, public defamation. He has protections against loss of pay. None of which I've received. In fact, to this day, my contractor has publicly gone on the record to news agencies and called me a liar.